And we have another car for review. This time is a BMW. It's the X5 model in configuration xDrive 25D. It's from 2017 and it's got about 115,000 kilometers on the clock. As you can see, we have the X5 today, and for Romania at least, it's the perfect configuration in terms of taxes and insurance costs, and well, pretty much that's gonna be it. Why do I say that? Because here in Romania we have smaller taxes and less costly insurance for cars with 2-liter engine, well, under 2-liter. So yeah, this one is the xDrive 25D. That means that it has only a 2-liter diesel engine with a couple of turbos, and being a 2017 model, it develops 231 brake horsepower. The torque is around 500 Newton meters, and the weight of the car, even though it's got only a 2-liter with 4 cylinders, it's still above 2 tons, more like 2.1 tons. Adding to the weight, obviously, it's also the all-wheel drive system, the xDrive, and the automatic gearbox from ZF, 8 HP, the model, Steptronic as BMW calls it. So yeah, the performance are not mind-boggling. Obviously, it's a big car, it's quite heavy, and the engine is sort of small for this type of vehicle. But you still can go to about 220 kilometers per hour, and the sprint from 0 to 100 is made in something like 7.7 seconds. But again, none of that actually matters, because come on, you're not gonna use this car to do sprints or go flat out, at least not here in Romania, because it's not legal. So yeah, mainly you buy this car because it's comfortable, it's spacious for the whole family, and the costs of running it are a bit lower compared with some other models with bigger size engines. Nevertheless, in terms of consumption, again, even though it's a 2-liter diesel, don't expect it to consume less than a 3-liter with 6 cylinders, because it's quite a heavy car. It's quite boxy. So yeah, I don't think that you'll ever reach the 5.6 liters that the manufacturer says it will, at least in average. Well, maybe you'll be able to do that outside the city, on national roads, obeying the speed limit, and if you're the only one in the car. But I doubt it. So maybe around 6 to 7 liters. It's more likely, and on the highway maybe at around 7 to 8 or even 9 liters. Of course, inside the city it will be above 10 liters, going to 11, 12, I don't know. We'll see inside the car the average of the owner. In terms of the luggage space, being quite a big SUV here in Europe at least, it's more than enough for the whole family. It does have a split tailgate, and the space is actually humongous. Well, nowadays you do have the X7, so maybe that's larger, but even so, you can see our carry-on luggage. It looks quite petite in there. You can fit, I think, 7, 8, maybe more suitcases like that one. And you also have some nets, some rubber bands, some tethering points, another storage area here on the right side, a hook for your groceries, 12-volt outlet, and underneath the boot floor, guess what? You have at least a quarter of the space underneath the boot floor compared with the one in the trunk. The only downside, on my opinion at least, is the cover, which is quite hard to get, especially if you have the lower part of the tailgate opened, and it's a manual cover, so yeah, maybe they could have done better. So the space in the back and the materials are as expected. We do have a premium car, and it's quite one of the most popular models from BMW. So yeah, you have soft materials up here, down below as well, with an interesting design, some switch of materials and colors, with speaker on the door card, the control for the automatic window, and some pockets here in the back with an interesting cover. It's also quite soft, even down here. And the space, again, it's a large SUV, so it's more than enough. You do have some pockets on the back of the front seats, and some storage spaces with a couple of 12-volt outlets and some vents, but you are not able to configure the climate control here in the back, at least not on this model. We have some lights in the ceiling and a central armrest with a small cubby that weirdly is not covered anyway, and a couple of cup holders that are actually adjustable. As you can see, I fit quite nicely back here. It's got loads of room, and I'm a bit over 1 meter and 80 centimeters in height, so yeah, if I'm more than comfortable here, most of the people are gonna be as well. The space is got more than a palm, well, a palm to the front seat, but it is actually quite far from the B-pillar of the car. And in terms of headroom, is more than a palm and maybe 1 finger, something like that. You do have some interesting materials that are soft on the either side of the armrest, and yeah, you can stretch out, you can put your feet underneath the front seat, but there's a slight downside. After all, it's not a perfect car. If you sit up straight, and it's something that I'm encountering more often than not, your knees are not in an ideal position, are a bit high, the bench is a bit low and a bit short. Even if I stretch under the front seat, I'm still not touching the bench with the whole bench with my feet. But other than that, you can comfortably travel back here for lots of miles or kilometers. As for the space in front, again, it's more than enough. It's quite a big car, so you'll expect it. The materials are again soft on the whole door card. As a plus, you do have an additional pocket over here, and the possibility of locking and unlocking the doors from the inside. And obviously the space here in the door card, it's a bit a bit larger. Other than that, the seat, it's got lots of adjustments, starting with the headrest that you can adjust. You can adjust it by height electrically, and also you can squeeze this part of the seat and that one as well, obviously. The extension is electrically adjustable as well. As you can see, we have lots of commands over here, including a lumbar support and memory function for the passenger seat. For the space, let's have a seat. For my height and the way that the seat is set, again, is more than enough space. As you can see, my knees are more than a palm away from the dashboard of the car. I don't know if the mic picks it, but if you want to buy some cabbage, there's a guy selling it on the street. Anyway, yeah, more than enough space, as I said. Pretty high position. The only downside, again, is the lack of softer material here on the center console. You do have a choice of decors, so but anyway, any of them are not gonna be soft, but it's not such a big problem because the space is more than enough to have your knee rest on the center console without touching any of the materials. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, the glove box obviously is damped, it's covered in felt, and it's quite large. So yeah, I like it. For the driver's side, obviously it's a similar door card. The only difference is in the handle, because you do have some extra buttons here for the electric windows, for your outside mirrors, and also the possibility of opening the top half of the luggage compartment door. So yeah, it does have some scuffs here. I presume it's from the seatbelt. And the seat itself, it's identical with the one on the other side, but the materials are not holding up so good. As you can see, we have some movement here, you have some cracks. This is quite usual in this model. Some wear and tear here as well. And keeping in mind that the car only has about 115,000 kilometers on the odometer, so yeah, there's that. On the left side of the steering wheel, you have the controls for the lights, another cubby that is covered this time, the possibility of adjusting the steering wheel electrically, and if we climb aboard and actually start the car, as you can see, this is the position. The steering wheel is nice, with lots of yeah, lots of points of gripping. The steering wheel is not so thick like on the newer models, but it does have quite a big center here. We do have physical buttons for the cruise control on the left side and the multimedia control on the right side, with pedals for the gearbox and some usual stocks for BMWs. In terms of the gauge cluster, it's all digital, but is not really configurable, so nothing to see here. And on the center console we have the mirror, which is not frameless, but is dimmable, so it's alright. We have some sunglass holder here, again covered, with some lights for the interior and the SOS button. Going back down, we have the display for the MMAE. Well, damn, it's not the MMAE, we are not in Audi, it's the iDrive system. I'm gonna be crucified for that, but anyway. It is a touchscreen, so yeah. It's interesting, it responds pretty quickly, so I'm pleased with that again. Lower down you have the hazard lights, the assistance systems, the climate unit with heated seats on this model, some additional controls for the multimedia, a small cubby with 12-volt outlet and the USB port over here, a couple of cup holders that are adjustable, and also you can close this area with this lid. Sorry. Going further back, you have the automatic gearbox lever, the parking brake with auto hold function, some additional commands for the driving modes of the car, the stability control, parking sensors, and adaptive it's the hill ascent, hill descent control. God damn it, you got it. On the right side there's an additional small cubby and the controller for the iDrive system. The armrest in BMW fashion opens in the split way, and it's actually pretty large. Welcome to the driving part of the review. It's a different setup for today, as you already saw from the static review, and obviously in the driving part it's gonna be different as well, but we are still gonna get some highway driving and some national roads, both inside the village, to say so, and outside. So the first impressions. It's a big car. It's with a quite high driving position, as you're expecting from an SUV, and for the most part it's quite comfortable as well. I'll start with the engine. It's 2-liter with 4 cylinders. And even though it's got 2 turbochargers, it feels a bit small for at least for this car, for this type of vehicle. The power is there. You do have 231 brake horsepower and 500 newton of torque, but even so it doesn't feel like you would expect it to feel like a typical BMW. At least in comfort, or especially in Eco Pro, it does feel quite sluggish and actually more comfortable than sporty, which, if you ask me, it's a good thing. For an SUV of this size that you're most likely gonna travel with your family or on a holiday, I doubt that you'll really use the power, the whole power, to do some sprints or whatever. For highway driving, it's more than enough. Coupled with the 8-speed gearbox, it's sublime. At the legal top speed here in Romania at 130 kilometers per hour, the engine is gonna be at around 2000 RPMs in top gear. So yeah, it's gonna be economical and you're gonna barely feel the noise coming from the engine or vibrations. Actually, no, in terms of vibrations, they're almost non-existent. Even though it's a 4-cylinder diesel engine, being mounted in line with the car longitudinally, you don't feel any vibrations, so that's a good thing. Going back to the controls of the car, they're all quite light. The brake pedal, it does have a good feel to it. You can modulate the braking, so yeah, it's more than enough for for a comfortable drive. The gearbox, you already know it. It's one of the best gearboxes on the market. You can barely feel the changes in comfort mode. If you switch it to sport, mainly you'll hear the engine because the RPMs are gonna be higher, but other than that, you wouldn't know it's a torque converter. You could say it's a double clutch. So yeah, it's suitable for this kind of car. What's surprising, again in comfort mode or Eco Pro, it's the steering feel. For a BMW, having such a light steering feel, it's interesting, but again, in line with the whole package of the car. It's comfortable, it's easy to live with, as is the suspension, actually. Even though it's quite a heavy car and we don't have air suspension, the fact that the wheels are on the smaller side, they are 18 or 19 inches, I'm not really sure, I didn't look. It means that you do have quite a healthy amount of rubber that helps with the dampening. So yeah, until speeds like 80-90 kilometers per hour on national roads or inside the city, it's a comfortable cruiser. You do feel the bumps in the road, but like a slight undulation, even though you can encounter potholes. You're quite well insulated from them, mainly because you sit up high and you're pretty far away from the tires. Now we are entering the highway, and as usual, let's see how the car feels at 90 kilometers per hour. Which is now. Interesting enough, you can hear the engine a bit, even though it's staying at around 1,500 RPMs. But it's not tiresome. You don't feel hardly any noise from the wind, which is interesting, considering it's a tall vehicle with large mirrors. But other than that, no, quite nice. Let's see at 110. Here you get a bit more wind noise, but other than that you don't really feel the engine or the tires. And now let's go to 130, which is now. Interestingly, at 130 you get a lot of wind noise, obviously, but other than that it's quite a comfortable car. I mean, you don't really feel the noise from the tires, even though it's running on round flat tires. Mainly that's because you sit up quite high, so yeah, you don't hear the noise from the tires, and obviously you will not hear the engine at this speed because of the wind. It's covering the engine noise. But this gets me to an interesting point. I would have expected to be a bit more comfortable in terms of the noise. It's not so well insulated, even though it's a premium car. I think it could have been better. It doesn't have double side glass on the outside glasses, windows, I'm sorry. So yeah, you can hear all the noises from outside the vehicle, especially at speed. And there's something else as well. Even though at some lower speeds the suspension is quite comfortable and deals with bumps with ease, once you get up to speed to around 130 kilometers per hour, it feels a bit unsettled. That's pretty weird as well. Anyway, for the most part, it's a comfortable car. Sorry about that. Damn, that was quite a deep pothole. So, as I was saying, it's a comfortable car for the most part. It could have been better in terms of suspension and the noise levels, but I don't know, maybe it depends. God damn it. It depends of the spec of the car, probably. Again, some potholes. But even so, I think I incline to like the car. For comfortable driving outside the city, it's more than enough. And the running costs are gonna be acceptable. Considering it's a premium car, you really have to know what you're getting yourself into. But if you're gonna use it for holidays, it's gonna be quite an effective way to travel. Let's see a bit of dynamic driving. I'm not gonna go back on the highway because the surface is not ideal. It's another highway compared with the one that I'm usually using for reviews. But we're gonna go outside the village, and we can do a little sprint. I'm gonna switch the car to sport and also the transmission. And now let's see a sprint from 10 kilometers per hour to about 90. Let's see. That was it. Again, pretty good on the brakes. Yeah, I wouldn't drive it like this for a long time. Doesn't feel in its element. It doesn't feel really happy to do so. Don't get me wrong, it can do it, but it doesn't feel that great. Also, in the bends, it leans quite a bit because it's a tall car. The center of gravity is pretty high as well. So even at 50-60 kilometers per hour, as you can see right now, the car is still leaning, and it doesn't feel that comfortable to it doesn't feel so comfortable to drive it like this. It does have an interesting push, mainly because it's with four-wheel drive. And the steering feel gets a bit harder. But other than that, as I said, it's not meant to do something like this. And especially if you go over 4,000 RPMs, it's gonna be running out of breath. So yeah, the gearbox does a nice job of maintaining the power band of the engine, but it can do only that much for this engine at least. Talking about the gearbox, it's an interesting fact actually. I used to have the same gearbox on my old car, on the A7. Yeah, all right. There it was coupled with a 3-liter diesel engine with again with a couple of turbos, and it was delivering about 100 horsepower more, and something like 150 Newton meters more than this engine. But even so, the gearbox is calibrated a bit different. Yeah, you'll find the same gearbox in BMWs, in some models from Audi, or I don't know, some models from Alfa Romeo. But even though the manufacturer is identical, the setup of the gearbox is gonna differ, because every car manufacturer can personalize their software. And on my former car, when I switched the gearbox to its sport program, it did some kicks between gears, and I think it was intentional. It was the way that that Audi programmed the gearbox. Here, I don't feel them, even if I'm going to sport. Even if I use the flappy pedal gearbox in manual mode. So, again, that's interesting. But it all comes down to how the manufacturer of the car set up the car. But for the most part, as I said, this is gonna be a car for your family, or for yourself, but to ride in comfort, not to go on a twisty road and enjoy some corners. So, going to the maintenance aspect. Being a diesel engine, you really have to be careful with it. At around 10,000 kilometers, you should be changing the engine oil, I'm sorry, and also the filters. If you're gonna use it inside the city, if you really must use it inside the city, even though it's not meant to be used like that, maybe you'll have to do the oil change at around 8,000 kilometers or something like that. Other than that, is the usual. You'll have to be careful with the particle filter, with the AdBlue system, the EGR, the turbos, and all the other annexes of the car, of the engine, I'm sorry. That's with the engine. You also might want to do some maintenance for the gearbox, because it does require some oil changes. Even though BMW is not gonna ask you to do an oil change on your gearbox, it's not long lifelong, whatever. I don't remember the term that they're using. You do have to do some oil changes at, I don't know, maybe 60,000 kilometers, or roughly to around 100,000 kilometers. It's easier and less expensive to change the oil and the filter than to have some problems with the gearbox and to have it repaired. Other than that, there's the usual discussion about the brakes and also the tires of the car, because it's quite a heavy car, and even though you're not gonna drive it like you stole it. And even though it doesn't really encourage you to drive it like that, it's a heavy car, it's all-wheel drive, so it will require some maintenance in terms of brakes and tires. Other than that, that's pretty much it for the maintenance. To close the review, the driving part, I'm gonna talk about the problems. The owner had the car for the most part of its life. It's at around 115,000 kilometers right now, and you would not believe it, at 7,000 kilometers one of the turbos failed, had stopped working, the smaller one. Obviously the car went in limp mode, and it was quite a hassle. The owner was on a holiday in that moment, so you can imagine how he felt. Yeah, it was put right by warranty, but even so, it's not right. Other than that, luckily, he didn't encounter any other problems with the car. So yeah, for the most part, it's gonna be quite easy to maintain, even though it's a premium car, and you'll have to invest some money in brakes and tires and I don't know, the diesel, the diesel part of the operating costs. But other than that, it seems that it can be reliable if you're using it properly. And to really end my review, I have to mention the consumption that the owner realized with the car, and it's about 9 liters per 100 kilometers. And keep in mind that the car is mainly used outside the city and on the highway. Quite a big consumption in my opinion for a 2-liter engine, but in line with the weight and the dimensions of the car. All in all, I enjoyed the car. I would see myself driving something like this, especially for holidays. I really enjoyed the headlights of the car. They're adaptive LEDs. So yeah, as I said, all in all, it's a nice car. As usual, thank you for watching. If you want to leave your impressions about the car, you can use the comment section or the social media pages. Thank you for watching.